When running a business, owners will always be faced with a set of risks. It's important to assess the possibility of exposure to certain risks in order to prepare for them. This can help to save a company if an issue occurs. Today, we'll be discussing the two types of risk and 4 ways to manage risk. So, first of all, what is risk? Risk is the chance of loss, degree of probability of loss, and the amount of possible loss. And along with this, there are two different types of risks: speculative risk and pure risk. A speculative risk has the possibility of ending in either profit or loss, whereas a pure risk only has the possibility of loss. A good example of a speculative risk would be a company that's debating if they want to turn their business into a franchise. By opening a franchise, it is a risk. It's a speculative risk because the franchise could do well and result in profit, or it could do poorly and result in loss. Pure risk, on the other hand, as we mentioned before, has no chance of profit. It can only result in loss. A good example of this would be a natural disaster, such as a hurricane hitting your business and wiping everything out. The company has nothing to gain, but it only loses. Businesses are usually most concerned with pure risks, and we're going to discuss 4 different ways that they can help manage these risks. First, reduce risk. Second, avoid risk. Third, get self-insurance. And fourth, buy insurance to cover the risk. Loss prevention programs are a great way to reduce risk. Let's say that you own a hardwood flooring factory. To start out with your loss prevention program, you might have regular fire drills, tornado drills, and safety training to ensure that your employees know exactly what to do if the situation arises. You might also have safety inspections for the equipment, regular maintenance, and accident prevention programs. You might place sprinklers throughout the factory, so if a fire erupts, the sprinklers will automatically go on to put it out, which would help to minimize fire loss. You would also want to add on safety devices to your machinery to help protect your workers and make sure that they practice your safety protocols, such as wearing glasses, helmet, whatever is necessary for the machine that they operate. You might also have video cameras on the factory so that you can keep an eye on your workers to ensure that if someone's hurt, that a fast response is made to help them. While a loss prevention program will differ drastically based on your type of business, it's very important to have one in place in order to minimize your risk. The second step in managing risk is avoiding certain risks. If something seems particularly risky, a business might avoid it. For example, in manufacturing, a business might steer away from purchasing machines that are known to be more dangerous than others. A good way to work around these risks is to outsource the function or service to another organization. For example, oftentimes companies will use a different shipping company to deliver their goods. Another example would be if the hardwood floor manufacturing company wants to sell their floorboards online, they might use PayPal to collect money from customers rather than spending a lot of time and money and the risk to create their own payment system. This can help to greatly reduce the risk of lawsuits related to online purchases and credit card security. The third way to help manage risk is self-insurance. Self-insurance is when a company only purchases catastrophe insurance and sets aside funds in order to cover any smaller losses. Some companies will only have the catastrophe insurance and not have special funds set aside, but this is not recommended as it's extremely risky. If there are several smaller incidents, it can still put the business under. And lastly, the 4th way to manage risk is purchasing insurance. One of the most common types of insurance a business purchases is called business ownership policy, which includes property and liability insurance. When seeking out insurance, it's important to first determine which aspects are uninsurable and which ones are insurable. Uninsurable risks are those that no insurance company will cover. So for example, for the hardwood flooring company, let's say that you specialize in a certain type of wood, and then all of a sudden this wood goes out of style and everybody wants a different style of wood. That type of style change is not insurable. Or perhaps you purchase a machine that just is not very efficient. That's not insurable either. An insurable risk is one that a typical insurance company will cover, and there's 6 guidelines that go along with this. The first one is that the policyholder must have insurable interest. This means that the policyholder must be the one to suffer if there is a loss. So for the hardwood flooring company, the policyholder would have to be the owner of the company, and they would purchase the insurance for their factory. They could not purchase insurance for somebody else's factory because they wouldn't lose if there was a fire or some other disaster. The loss must also be measurable, as well as the chance of loss, and the loss must be completely accidental. So if the owner purposely set the company on fire, they obviously wouldn't get any insurance money for it. The risk has to be dispersed in order for it to be insurable. And lastly, the insurance company can set particular standards in order to accept taking on a risk with a company. So today we covered the 2 types of risks, which are speculative risk and pure risk, and the 4 ways to manage risk for your business, which include reducing risk, avoiding risk, purchasing self-insurance, and buying insurance to cover risk. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Created using Powtoon.